When someone wants you out of their life, these three signs appear. There comes a painful moment in some relationships when your heart starts noticing things your mind is still trying to explain away. The texts feel different. The conversations feel different. The energy feels different. You keep telling yourself everything is fine, but deep down something feels off and you cannot quite ignore it anymore. Most people think someone leaves your life with a clear goodbye, but that is rarely how it happens. More often, people leave emotionally before they ever leave physically. The effort becomes smaller. The warmth becomes weaker. The connection starts feeling one-sided. And because it happens gradually, many people spend months holding on to a version of the relationship that no longer exists. This is Isabella, and today we're talking about the three biggest signs that appear when someone no longer wants you in their life. These signs can be difficult to accept, but once you understand them, you stop blaming yourself for changes you did not create. You stop chasing people who are slowly pulling away, and you start seeing the truth clearly instead of getting trapped in confusion. Before we go any further, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? I'd love to see how many different countries and cities are part of this community. The first sign that someone no longer wants you in their life is that they stop caring about how their actions affect you emotionally. This is usually where the change begins, and it is often the hardest sign to accept because it happens gradually instead of all at once. When someone genuinely values your presence, your feelings matter to them naturally. They care if they hurt you. They care if something they said upset you. Even during disagreements, they still try to protect the connection because losing it would bother them too. That does not mean they are perfect. It simply means your emotional well-being remains important to them. Now look at what happens when someone starts emotionally checking out. Suddenly your feelings become an inconvenience instead of a priority. They stop explaining themselves. They stop reassuring you. They stop caring whether their actions leave you confused, hurt, or anxious. Conversations that once ended with understanding now end with distance. Questions that once received thoughtful answers now feel ignored or dismissed. This is where many people start blaming themselves. They think they are asking for too much. Too much attention, too much communication, too much clarity. But wanting basic care from someone who claims to value you is not asking for too much. When someone truly wants you in their life, they make you feel emotionally safe. When they are slowly leaving, they make you feel emotionally confused. And confusion is often the first warning sign that the connection is no longer being protected by both people equally. What makes this sign so painful is that the person may still be talking to you, still replying to messages, and still showing up occasionally. On the surface, it can look like the relationship is still alive. That is why so many people stay confused for so long. The problem is that they are paying attention to presence instead of investment. Someone can be physically present while emotionally absent. They can answer your texts without truly caring about the conversation. They can spend time with you without feeling connected to you. And when that happens, you begin noticing small changes that are difficult to explain but impossible to ignore. You find yourself replaying conversations in your head. You start wondering why simple interactions leave you feeling empty instead of reassured. You notice that you are carrying more of the emotional weight than before. The relationship starts feeling like something you have to maintain by yourself. And here's something important most people never talk about. People protect what they genuinely value. If someone values a friendship, they protect it. If they value a relationship, they protect it. If they value your presence, they protect the connection. So when somebody repeatedly shows no concern for how their actions affect you emotionally, pay attention not to their promises, not to their excuses. Pay attention to the pattern. Because sometimes the clearest sign that someone no longer wants you in their life is not what they say, it is how little concern they show when they know they are hurting you. The second sign appears when they stop making effort to keep the connection alive. Every healthy relationship, whether it is romantic or platonic, survives because two people continue choosing it. Feelings may start a connection, but effort is what keeps it alive over time. At first, the changes are usually small. Replies become shorter. Conversations become drier. Plans get canceled more often. The enthusiasm disappears. You start noticing that you are always the one reaching out first. You are the one checking in. You are the one trying to keep conversations going. You are the one making plans. And without realizing it, the relationship slowly turns into something that depends almost entirely on your effort. This is where many people get trapped emotionally. They tell themselves the other person is busy. They tell themselves life is stressful. They tell themselves things will get better soon. And sometimes that is true. But there is a difference between someone being temporarily overwhelmed and someone no longer investing in the connection. One still looks for ways to stay connected despite the challenges. The other slowly stops trying altogether. Pay attention to that difference because a person who truly wants you in their life may not always have unlimited time, but they will usually find some way to show you that you still matter. Effort may change. The desire to stay connected usually does not. What makes this sign particularly dangerous is that many people spend months convincing themselves that nothing is wrong because the other person has not officially left. There has been no breakup conversation, no dramatic argument, no clear ending. Because of that, they keep holding on to hope, believing that if they try a little harder, love a little harder, communicate a little better, things will somehow return to the way they used to be. The problem is that relationships cannot survive on one person's effort forever. At some point, you have to stop looking at what someone says and start looking at what they consistently do. A person who genuinely wants you in their life will usually find ways to maintain the connection even during difficult seasons. They may be busy, stressed, overwhelmed, or distracted by life, but you will still feel their desire to stay connected. You will still feel their effort somewhere beneath the chaos. When someone no longer wants the relationship, the opposite starts happening. The connection begins feeling like a responsibility instead of a priority. Conversations feel forced. Time together feels optional. You slowly become the only person carrying the emotional weight while they contribute less and less. That is why one of the most painful realizations in life is discovering that if you stopped reaching out completely, the relationship would disappear with you. Not because there was a fight, not because there was betrayal, but because the other person quietly stopped fighting for it a long time ago. The third sign appears when they stop including you in their future. This is one of the clearest indicators that someone is emotionally pulling away because the future is where people reveal what they truly intend to keep in their lives. When someone values you deeply, they naturally imagine you being part of what comes next. They talk about future plans, future experiences, future goals, and future moments without even thinking about it. Your presence becomes built into the picture they have of their life. Pay attention to how people speak. Someone who wants you in their life often uses language like we, us, and our. They talk about things happening next month, next season, next year, and they naturally assume you will still be there. But when someone begins emotionally withdrawing, that language slowly changes. The future becomes less certain. Plans become vague. Conversations stop moving forward. Instead of building a future with you, they start building one around themselves. This change is subtle, which is why many people miss it. They focus on what the person still says today while ignoring what they no longer say about tomorrow. Yet, the absence of future thinking often tells a deeper story than words ever could. Because when someone stops seeing you in their future, they usually started leaving emotionally long before they ever leave physically. And that shift changes the entire direction of the relationship, whether it is acknowledged or not. One of the saddest parts about this sign is that many people do not notice it until much later, because they are paying attention to the relationship that exists today instead of the direction the relationship is moving tomorrow. They hear the occasional message, see the occasional effort, and convince themselves that everything is still intact. Meanwhile, the other person has quietly stopped building a future that includes them. Think about how relationships grow naturally when two people are emotionally invested. They make plans. They talk about experiences they want to share. They discuss events months away. They imagine where the connection might lead. None of this feels forced because when someone genuinely wants you in their life, their mind automatically makes room for you in the future. When that changes, something important has shifted emotionally. The conversations stop moving forward and start living only in the present. You notice that future plans become uncertain, postponed, or avoided altogether. Whenever tomorrow comes up, you feel hesitation instead of excitement. You feel distance instead of anticipation. What makes this so painful is that people rarely announce it directly. Very few people will sit down and say, "I no longer see you in my future." Instead, they reveal it through their actions. They stop building. They stop planning. They stop creating shared experiences that move the relationship forward. And when someone stops inviting you into their future, it often means they have already started creating one without you in it. There is something important I want you to understand before we continue. None of these signs by themselves automatically mean a relationship is over. People go through stressful seasons, they get overwhelmed, they become distracted. Life sometimes pulls people in different directions temporarily. That is why you should never judge a relationship based on one bad week, one difficult conversation, or one period of emotional distance. What matters is the pattern. A healthy relationship can survive temporary distance because the foundation is still there. The care is still there. The desire to reconnect is still there. Even when communication becomes difficult, both people continue looking for ways to protect the connection because losing it would genuinely hurt them. Emotional withdrawal feels different. Instead of temporary distance, you start noticing a gradual disappearance of care, effort, and investment. The relationship begins surviving entirely on your hope, your patience, your understanding, and your willingness to keep carrying it. Meanwhile, the other person slowly becomes more comfortable receiving than contributing. This is where many people exhaust themselves emotionally because they keep trying to revive something the other person is no longer helping them maintain. They continue giving more attention, more understanding, more chances, and more energy while ignoring the fact that relationships are supposed to be built by two people. The painful reality is that one person can start a relationship, but one person can never sustain it forever. At some point, mutual effort becomes the difference between a relationship that survives and one that slowly fades away. The hardest part about realizing someone no longer wants you in their life is accepting that love cannot be forced, negotiated, or earned through suffering. Many people spend months, sometimes years, believing that if they are patient enough, understanding enough, loyal enough, or forgiving enough, the other person will eventually return to the way they once were. That belief keeps people trapped. They keep explaining away behavior that would have hurt them months ago. They keep lowering their standards to preserve a connection that is already slipping away. They keep waiting for effort that never arrives because they are attached to memories instead of reality. The relationship becomes less about what is happening now and more about what used to happen before everything changed. This is why emotional withdrawal can be so confusing. You are not grieving the relationship that exists today. You are grieving the relationship you thought you still had. You are grieving the future you imagined, the version of the person you fell in love with, and the connection that once felt safe and certain. What makes healing possible is recognizing the truth instead of fighting it. The moment you stop chasing someone who is moving away from you emotionally, you create space to see things clearly. You stop measuring your worth by their effort. You stop blaming yourself for changes you did not cause. And you begin understanding something important. Your value does not decrease simply because someone else stopped appreciating it. So, after everything we talked about today, I want you to remember something carefully. When someone wants you in their life, you rarely have to spend every day questioning your importance to them. You do not have to constantly decode mixed signals, wonder where you stand, or carry the entire relationship by yourself. Real connections are not perfect, but they do contain something incredibly important: mutual effort. The moment someone starts caring less about your feelings, stops investing in the connection, and no longer includes you in their future, you have to pay attention to what their actions are telling you. Not because you should immediately walk away, but because reality becomes easier to accept when you stop arguing with the evidence in front of you. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to hold on to someone who has already let go emotionally. They keep chasing clarity from a person who has stopped communicating honestly through effort. They keep searching for old feelings in a relationship that has already changed, and in the process, they lose themselves. If these signs appear in your relationship, do not panic, but do not ignore them either. Respect yourself enough to see the truth clearly because the right people may not always be perfect, but they will never repeatedly make you feel unwanted for simply loving them sincerely. Before you go, I want to ask you something. Which of these three signs do you think hurts the most when it happens? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy these conversations about relationships, female psychology, emotional intelligence, and human behavior, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications because the next video may help you understand something that changes the way you see people forever.